welcome back to the Bored Whovian YouTube channel, and today I am bringing back a series which I'm annoyed at myself for not continuing, and I'm back with it, and it is Random Reviews, a series in which I go onto the Doctor Who randomizer website and it will randomly select a Doctor Who episode for me to watch. And if you watched the last video on this series, I finished it by going onto the randomizer and finding out that the next episode I had to watch, or story I had to watch, was Full Circle in season 18 with Tom Baker's Doctor. I never got around to doing that. I'm not gonna lie, I actually made a thumbnail for it months ago, and you know, I used that as a way of motivation to get it to actually do the video, and I never got around to it, but now I'm actually finally doing it. Yeah, I've got the box set ready to go, just got to put that in, and yeah, we're going to watch Full Circle, and I'm going to review it. I have seen it before, but you know, I need to kind of watch it again to give an opinion on it. But yeah, Random Reviews is back. Let's do this.
One eternity later.
Okay, so I am back, and I have just watched Full Circle, all 4 parts of it, and I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the best view. I wasn't exactly, you can understand why maybe this took me a while to record, because it's just a bit slow. There's a lot of 4-parters in Classic Who, and this is one of those ones which is just like, oh god, it just keeps going. Obviously, if I want to talk about what the story's about, this is the introduction of Adric, who becomes a companion, and he stows away at the end onto the TARDIS. And it's also the beginning of the E-Space trilogy. Obviously, you've got this, Full Circle, State of Decay, and it concludes in Warrior's Gate. And so, you know, to sum up the story, at the start, obviously it comes just after Meglos, and at the end of Meglos, Romana finds out that she has been called back to Gallifrey, and she's not like in support of that. In her trials with the Doctor, she doesn't want to go back to Gallifrey, and in their attempt to go back to Gallifrey, they somehow end up in E-Space with negative coordinates. They aren't in their own time and space. It's not really explained as like a different dimension or something, but it's like a different, yeah, I guess it is kind of like a different dimension. That's the way I'd describe it. And they end up on a different plane with the same coordinates as Gallifrey, and they end up on the planet Alzarius, which is where Adric is from, and it's got some sort of like hierarchy system. He's an elite. He has a star, which is to recognise his mathematical excellence. Not much else is mentioned about that, but that's all we know. Adric is the smart companion. That's kind of what he's seen as. And obviously, I've got to talk about the elephant in the room. Adric is probably one of the most hated companions historically, and I hope the randomizer gets me to review his final episode, which I do look forward to maybe talking more about, because I love that story, but I won't talk about that one in case anyone doesn't know when or how he leaves. But regarding the story overall, you know, the first part is very slow. The Doctor isn't really in the first half of the first part until Adric bumps into the Doctor and Romana. K9 is in this, barely. Gets his head chopped off quite hilariously. And, you know, there's a few kind of young actors which are kind of not great. Adric, I'm kind of an Adric sympathiser in that I don't really think he's amazing, but I kind of just look at him and I accept maybe Matthew Waterhouse isn't the best, but, you know, I still don't mind it. But at the end of the day, this is not a good story, I don't really think. In my heart of hearts, it feels very much like the 80s, the negatives of the 80s, in that Doctor Who is very much trying to lean into the sci-fi, lean into the weird, lean into the stuff, and it's just not simplifying it. And, you know, if you're a regular person watching this, you'd be like, oh god, this is a bit annoying. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this. In terms of season 18, this is definitely on the lower end of season 18. And Tom Baker's performance as the Doctor is fine. It's not his best performance, it's not his worst performance, it's very by the numbers. Romana is fine. Romana gets possessed halfway through the story, and Adric is very much, you know, having a bigger role than Romana in this story, in only his first story. And I don't know, if to explain my thoughts, as soon as the story starts, it doesn't really pick up any momentum. There's no point where I'm like, yes, this is good here, I want to see what the next scene is. I'm very much waiting for the cliffhanger on each part, and that's not what you want from Doctor Who. This is the negatives of Classic Who. There's some stories where I just forget everything that just happened because it's just mind-numbing, kind of, and I'm not interested enough to care what happened. If there's any big fans of Full Circle, let me know. But it was just a bit, I didn't really like it. And this is not me bashing Classic Who. This is my first actual Classic Who on this channel. And I don't want it to make it seem like I'm bashing Classic Who. I love Classic Who. But this is like me reviewing something along the lines of, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a really just like average story. This would be like me reviewing Dinosaurs on a Spaceship or something, which is ironically the next story I'm watching with my girlfriend in order, but because she's still watching Dot 2 in the background. But yeah, they mentioned the words Full Circle like a few times in the story. I'm not gonna lie, I was so disinterested. I didn't entirely pick up on the meaning of it behind it. I know there's a whole evolutionary side to the story because the kind of villains per se, the Marshmen, are there, and these creepy spiders, which obviously look 80s and crap, but they still slightly creep me out because I am a bit of an arachnophobe. Yeah, and they, at some point in the story, by Romana, and that's how she gets possessed. And yeah, this is the beginning of Romana's end, as obviously she leaves the TARDIS at the end of the Space trilogy. But if I just talk about some positives, I love the fact that I'm watching a story in the 80s. I love the music. The backing music of this era is just brilliant. I love the theme tune, Peter Howe, just all the synth you need. It's beautiful. And the story overall just trudges along, and there's one scene which I do like from Tom Baker, which is when he actually discovers, by talking to the deciders at the top of their society inside of the Starliner, that actually the reason they have been procrastinating and the reason that they have gone full circle and left their society going round and round in circles all this time for generations is because they never found out how to fly their ship, which is a bit dumb, but at the same time it's an explanation, but it's a decent reveal at some point in that story, and it is resolved in the end as they don't know how to fly. They're pretty helpless actually, and the Doctor tells them, look, he fixes the ship pretty much and just lets it just to be the go button, pretty much goes, just click that button and you'll fly off. And they are a pretty helpless species. I'm just like, if it makes me wonder, looking forward, because Adric is always seen as a very smart character who always wants to be the smartest person in the room, and it's just like, if he came from this species, he really can't be that smart because they're a bit helpless. But that's not the case looking forward with Adric per se. Do I like this story? No. I'm going to be perfectly frank. No. So, this has probably been a very quick review. I'm looking at the time, this is probably the quickest review I will do. And if I have to give this a score out of 10, I would probably give it a 3. I really just think this is Doctor Who really at, a point where these are the signs of what was happening in the 80s coming in early. It's just really not really clicking, not really vibing with me. Nothing's really pulling me towards the screen. It's forgetting to kind of engage the audience, and it's more trying to just, I don't know, do something different, and I don't really like it. The story which comes after this, State of Decay, I much prefer. And yeah, I'm still yet to watch Megalos, the story which comes before this, but I'll watch that at some point. But yeah, this story, Full Circle, 3 out of 10. I'm really not a fan of this one. Okay, quickly before I finish this video, it's the next day, as you know, so I'm wearing something different. But I actually forgot to go back to the randomizer and pick the next episode of this series. So I'm going to have to do that first, aren't I? Okay, so now I am onto the randomizer. As you can see here, it was lost on Full Circle. And I find it incredible that it's still saved onto here. Because, obviously it's connected to my phone. and I've definitely used the randomizer since. But yeah, it still says full circle. So I've checked the settings. The settings are the same in terms of I don't want it to pick an episode with missing parts, but I will let it pick animated reconstructions because I vibe with those kind of stories. Anyway, there's nothing else we can do other than just clicking it. Ooh, that's fun. Okay, the next story in Random Reviews will be Aliens of London and World War III. You've heard it here first. We've only just had our first Classic Who one, and we're jumping straight back into New Who with Series 1, Episodes 4 and 5, The Slitheen. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think of Full Circle? If you've watched it, let me know what you'd score out of 10. I really didn't like this one. Maybe it's because it's late at night and I want to go to bed that I've rated this so low. But yeah, it's not one that I'm particularly fond of. But anyway, like I said, comment below what you think. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to ding the bell for notifications. You'll be notified every single time I upload. Anyway, I'll be the Bald Whovian, and I'll see you around.